Welcome to Community Chats, bringing you stories and insights from the heart of Community Living Toronto, a non-profit organization that proudly supports people with intellectual disabilities and their families. We will focus on stories of belonging and inclusion and topics of interest from communities across Ontario and the world. From uplifting moments to breaking barriers, from innovative policies to ideas from leading thinkers, we continue to advocate for inclusive communities and support the rights and choices of people with an intellectual disability.
Hi, everyone. This is Brad Saunders. I'm the CEO at Community Living Toronto, and I'm really glad that you've chosen to join us for a conversation today that we're having with Mary Pat Armstrong. Mary Pat Armstrong is a remarkable person. She's a member of the Order of Canada, founder of several very impactful charities, as which you'll learn through this conversation. And Community Living Toronto recently awarded Mary Pat with our first ever Lifetime Achievement Award for her significant contributions, both to Community Living Toronto and for making Ontario, and indeed all of Canada, a better place to live. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. So Mary Pat, thank you for joining us today on our Community Chats podcast. Really good to see you.
Thank you. I think it's great to be here.
It will be. I'm looking forward to this conversation. You are one of the most interesting people that I know. I think you're one of the most interesting people that I know. So we're gonna have a good conversation.
Great. I look forward to it, Brad.
Now we Community Living Toronto just recognized you and your husband Bob for a Lifetime Achievement Award for all the work that you've done supporting Community Living Toronto over the years, but also in recognition of the significant amount of charitable work that you've done throughout your lifetime. So we're going to get to that, but I thought I'd start.
What happens when you're old?
Yes. Well, a lot of people you can also get old without doing all that stuff, right? So what's the old joke? With age comes wisdom, but sometimes age comes alone. The same can be said for charitable stuff and helping people as well.
Okay.
So, Mary Pat, you're not old, but you're in your 80s. You're not shy about saying that, and you take good care of yourself, and so you've got many years ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you? Where do you come from? What's Mary Pat's story?
Well, I don't come from Toronto, but I've spent most of my life in Toronto. Was born on an army base, I think it was, and then went to Peterborough pretty quickly, and then to Toronto, and then was married in Toronto. And fairly quickly, my husband and I moved to Montreal, and we were there for 6 years and then back to Toronto. While growing up, I went to a local public school. Then I went to Branksome Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to U of T School of Nursing and got a bachelor's degree in Bachelor of Science in Nursing.
Okay.
And I always wanted to teach nursing. I didn't want to practice nursing as much as I wanted to teach it.
Okay.
So I practiced for a short time just to get my feet on the ground after graduating.
Where did you practice?
I practiced at Wellesley Hospital.
Okay.
And then when we moved to Montreal, I taught nursing at McGill. So I only practiced at Wellesley.
Okay.
And then we moved to Montreal and I was able to get a job teaching nursing at McGill School of Nursing. And then I started to have a family. So I stopped working full time, but I taught 2 evenings a week at Concordia
Mm-hmm.
in a new program that was really exciting to me at the time, teaching RNs to get their degree so that they could go on and be a teacher or administrator. And that was at the time when the local CLSCs were starting up in Quebec. So, and I so believed in that approach, that clinic approach outside the hospital. And so, and then I decided I was doing so much teaching, maybe I should get a degree in teaching and learn how to teach.
Okay.
So we moved back to Toronto, and I went to Oise
Hmm.
and got a master's in education, um, to the quite the disappointment of the School of Nursing. They wanted me to get a master's in nursing,
Okay.
and but I was more interested in the other aspect. So, but I did that part time. So
Okay.
that was
Well, you were raising a family.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. I learned I could read 5 times as fast between 5 and 7 in the morning as I could between 9 and 12 at night.
Yes, yes. That just had to do with the energy level or the fact that you were,
Yeah,
yeah. So, yeah.
definitely.
So, tell us about your family. How many kids did you have?
We have 3 daughters. Our We've had 4 daughters. Our first
Hmm.
daughter, Marion, died of leukemia when she was 5 and a half, and our second daughter, Sally, was born by then,
Hmm.
and is now grown up and has 3 kids of her own. Our third daughter, Jenny, um, was also was born shortly before Marion died.
Hmm.
That was a period of my life that
Yeah.
I'm proud I survived. Uh, and and Jenny is intellectually disabled. Um, our first daughter was also intellectually disabled, and eventually uh, a chromosome abnormality was discovered, but it wasn't even discovered in the world when all this was going on.
Right.
Uh, but once our eldest daughter wanted to have kids, we went back into it genetically, and they had just discovered it. So there was definitely a congenital connection between Marion and Jenny.
Okay.
And but so now I'm sitting with 2 daughters,
Hmm.
and I always wanted 3 kids.
Right.
So ultimately my husband, but it was not an overnight decision, and that's why there's a big space between,
Hmm.
agreed, and we adopted a wonderful, healthy little baby, um, 40 years ago.
Okay.
So, and she has 3 kids.
Okay. Wow. That's quite the
So,
journey.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, now, Marion, you mentioned that she passed away when she was uh,
Five, half
five and
Mary.
a half.
Yeah.
Okay. That must have been terribly difficult, obviously. Um, and that inspired you, and that you one of the things that I certainly I met you through the work that you do philanthropically and with charities through your work with Community Living Toronto. But you didn't start there with your sort of community involvement and supporting charitable work in Toronto and around across the country. What, can you talk about that journey and how Marion played a part and then later Jenny?
Well, I was always involved in my kids' activities,
Hmm.
whatever they were doing. So, school, I was involved at their schools. Choir, I was involved with Toronto Children's Chorus. Um, After Marion died, about, I don't know, within the year after Marion died, her oncologist from Sick Kids phoned me and said, "Have you ever heard of Ronald McDonald House?" And I said, "No, I hadn't." And he said, "Well, there's one in Chicago or Philadelphia. I think it was Philadelphia, and another one is just starting to be created in New York." And we George Cohan, who at the
Yeah.
time ran McDonald's, had approached sick kids, and Dr. Peter McClure, who was the head oncologist at sick kids at that time, and said, we want to do one in Toronto. And so Peter said, great. And he phoned me and said, let's get on it.
Okay.
So I always say, Bob raised the money and I spent it. It was terrific. So we built the first Ronald McDonald House in Canada, and it was just an incredible experience for me, just in terms of learning how to build something from scratch.
Right.
And it was also an amazing way to grieve, because I was so positive. I was doing something very positive for everybody else who was in a similar situation.
Right.
So,
that's good. That's good. So so there's a number of Ronald McDonald houses across Canada now. I don't know off the top of my head how many there are, but do you?
And the world. There's
and
about
the world
60 around the world.
How many around the world?
Around 60, or at least.
Okay.
It might even be more.
Okay.
I haven't checked in the last few years.
Well, I benefited from that work that you did. So my son was born. He had some issues when he was born, so he spent 9 days in a NICU. He was born in Toronto at Etobicoke General, but transferred to McMaster when he, with an ambulance along the QE, and it was very dramatic. And you end up in a hospital with nowhere to go because Sick Kids was full. And where do you stay? And we ended up staying a number of nights at the Ronald McDonald House in Hamilton. So,
yes.
So thank you for that work. It was an inspiring, amazing facility, as you said, and you're in there with other families that are going through maybe not the same thing, just by the nature of what the house is, but you're all worried about your kids, and they're working together and sharing meals and stuff. It's an inspiring place.
And you're close to the hospital.
Yeah, walking distance. Yeah. Yeah.
And when we first started that house, the sick child had to stay in the hospital. Gradually, the sick kids learned to trust our system, and the sick child sometimes was able to stay at the house.
Oh, okay. So you're close to the hospital, but that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah. So that led you to, that was an amazing, you learned a lot, you found it very rewarding, and you had a big impact. That led you to Camp Uchigayas, which is now called Camp Fire Circle. Tell us about Uch.
Well, I was just sitting around the Ronald McDonald House board table one day and said, it's time to do something else for kids with cancer and families. And let's do a camp. So a couple of us drove around Ontario looking for sites, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, we started on Lake Couchiching at the Geneva Park, and we were only 1 week. We decided we had to start small and not worry about meals and housekeeping and all those things. So
right.
We and the name Uchigayas was around a wonderful Indian legend that was all about hard work and fighting and support from those around you to conquer something that was not what you wanted to have.
Yeah.
So it was a great story, and but it's interesting. The hardest thing at the beginning was getting campers, because parents were afraid.
Yeah, of course.
Let go. But all the staff was volunteer. All the counselors are still volunteer. There's a huge staff, but all the counselors are still volunteer.
So you started at Couchiching, near Aurelia, and did you moved
to Rosso Lake College?
Okay.
And then we bought property up in Muskoka. It has its own small lake, so
Okay.
campers can go on overnights,
Yeah.
paddling down to the end of the lake, and the staff walk along to give them their meds when
I
it's
see.
necessary. There's a full big med shed with doctors and nurses, and some of the doctors are on holiday from sick kids.
Hmm.
It doesn't detract from, sorry, they're not on holiday, they're on work from
Right.
sick kids. So it is not part of their holiday.
So there's a
Nurse,
very experienced, strong medical team at the site.
huge.
Yeah.
And it's now actually for all serious illness, or at least for cardiac and liver illnesses as well. It's moved beyond just cancer, as has Ronald McDonald
Right.
House, because need has
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Excellent.
and it's full time, and it's full time in the winter. Um, there's
Oh, I
volunteers
didn't realize it was year round now. Or
volunteers come to sick kids and
okay.
other hospitals as well
Okay.
to provide little camping programs.
Okay.
And
Great.
there's a downtown building in Toronto that the camp rents for $1 a year.
Okay. Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's full time with a big,
Fantastic.
huge paid staff now.
Okay. That's something to be sitting around a board table saying, let's think about something new. And then to all these years later, look back and see what that has grown into. That's that's something else. Now, you and I got to know each other through the Lights program and your involvement with that. So after Campfire Circle, you ended you decided there was time to do something else, that there was more to do. Tell us
Well,
about
I
talk about
said
that.
to myself, okay, enough with cancer. I'm moving to the intellectually disabled.
Okay.
And walked into Community Living Toronto. Well, with somebody brought me in, and to meet with Angela Bradley, and
Yeah.
she loves to tell the story that I'll do anything, but I'm done with fundraising. Didn't work. But if you are asking people for money, if you're creating something, you have to ask people for money. I don't believe in asking people for money that doesn't 95% at least go to what you're asking them for money for. And then on top of that, if you're asking people for money, you better be giving money yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Right. So that was the genesis of Lights, walking into Community Living Toronto on Spadina, speaking to Angela,
Well, I did other things
yeah,
first,
okay, I see.
connectability and other stuff.
Yeah. Also a program that's still around. So so how did Lights then come to, what brought the idea for Lights? How did that come to fruition? And we'll talk a little bit about what Lights is now, but what was to start with, what inspired you to come up with the idea of Lights?
I wanted to do something major to help the intellectually disabled population. And I saw the two major areas as jobs and housing. And I guess step back a few years, Bob and I had always hoped that Jenny could live independently to some
Right.
level.
Yeah.
And we hoped that we could afford to buy her a house and get her set up. And Bob went to work and worked really hard, and bless him, that happened. So
Right.
I would say now, just about 20 years ago, we bought a house. And again, for me, it was all of this was easy because I knew what to do, how to do it.
Right.
So found a caregiver, found housemates, did a little tiny reno in the house, and uh, opened the doors. And Jenny's house has always been Monday to Friday, and the weekends the housemates go home.
Okay.
Um, so then seeing her thrive in her independence, not overnight, but all the small things that parents like
Hmm.
myself notice with a child who has an intellectual disability. We, uh, Bob and I saw how Jenny was totally thriving. And I just said, I can't sit back and uh, uh, enjoy this without helping other families.
Right.
So that's when I said, okay, housing or jobs. And I just thought jobs, couldn't quite see my head around that. So housing,
Right.
and approached Bruce Rivers
Hmm.
with a plan. Said, this is what I want to do. And I want to partner with you guys because you guys are amazing with the intellectually disabled population. But I don't, I want I want office, I want help, I want services,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want all of that from you guys. I'll go out and do the fundraising with some help from you as well. But yeah, I formed a board,
Hmm.
talked to other families who have been on the wait list for, at that point, at least 10 years. Half of
Right.
them are probably still on the wait list. And
It's a long wait list. The last numbers, there were close to 30,000 people waiting for a place to live, some kind of residential
in,
housing support, housing
in
plus supports, and then another 15,000 people waiting for it. So there's about 50, more than 50,000 people waiting in the province for support. The numbers are they're so big, they're just staggering.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Like our deficit,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the other side of it, right? Yeah.
right? Yeah, so lights, lights is the fundraising part of it has always been the challenge. And it was less of a challenge in Toronto because Toronto's where the money is,
Yeah.
technically. And bless all our friends. Of course, Jenny makes friends in a nanosecond. And
Yeah.
so all our friends and her friends and all those people were more than happy to donate to lights.
Right.
Uh, but it that part is an ongoing challenge, how to help
And
families monetarily get going.
yeah, yeah. So and the model is, and it started out so that the lights board, the money was raised
Right.
from, and you're very good at it as well. Jenny's great, but you should take some credit yourself. Um, Money was raised, and then there's a couple of parts of the lights program. One is planning with families to
Mm-hmm.
help them envision what a future might be for a place to live for their son or daughter. And that could involve roommates. It could involve, a family might have a condo that they own, or they could, as you did, purchase, or they might rent a space and bring in roommates. And then you find ways to bring in staff to support them. And it might be a model like Jenny's home where it's Monday to Friday and then people go home on the weekends, or they work things out. They come up with a plan for the residential program, and the
For
lights coordinators do that work.
yes, and the lights coordinators are the key to the whole
Right.
program, and the government supports them right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one for a few years, Laura,
Yeah.
and then with a lot of stomping, we got a second,
Yeah.
and their salaries are annualized in the budget, and
Yeah.
uh, they are the they are the center of the
Yeah.
wheel of the
And it,
program.
And I think it's interesting. What's interesting about the lights model is the lights facilitators help arrange the situation. They help with the budget. They help with the planning, working through the issues of legals and how do people get along and how does all these things work out. And then the families take over. So they hire their own staff, they manage their own leases, they work all that out. And if it's one or two or three families, they do that together. And then the lights facilitator pulls back and is available to check in if needed. But then people are on their own.
Yes, yes. But the lights facilitator is always in the background if they
Right.
need.
Right. And then so the lights, the fundraised money is grants are given to families for a period of time to support the other sources of revenue that they may have. It might be ODSP, there might be a family contribution,
Might be rent.
might be rent, could be
Well-
a passport money that people would have.
Mhm, mhm.
And so that started it when I first started in this role and learned a lot more in detail about lights. It was amazing to see that this had worked. And now we've been at it now. It's 10 or is it 12 years? I'm bad with date.
2011, I think we.
Okay, so longer than okay.
Uh-huh.
And to date,
And
there
we
have
over
been
100.
over
Just
100.
Past, well, at least 100, maybe 102
Yeah.
individuals who we've helped find supported independence.
Yeah, and then the work that the lights facilitators do is they talk about the program and they talk about what the opportunities are to live on your own and how that
They
can
have
work.
workshops.
So they work with workshops, and they've done that for hundreds of people. And then we've got, as you said, just over 100
Thousands of people.
thousands. Then we've got about 100 people that have actually taken the step to plan for a situation on their own and try it out. And some have continued on and to this day that have been there from the beginning, and others have tried it out and then not continued. And it's been a real experience for people.
And our hope always is, and what's happened thus far, is that the government takes over funding the individuals that we have helped become independent after a few years. Because if we want to keep expanding and reaching more individuals and families, we need to let go of the families that we have started.
Right.
But we thus far have not let go of any until their funding has been taken
Right.
over.
Right, and that's because we've built the fundraising has been so successful that we've been able to do that, which has been good. And maybe we can talk about this for a while, because one of the real benefits of lights is, and it's a significant worry for parents as they age, and what happens to their son or daughter who is likely living still at home. What happens when a parent can no longer take care of or support, or is no longer around, or needs, can't do it anymore? What happens? And too often the pathway, if Jenny's an adult now and grown, if she was for the first time having to look at living on her own, her ability to learn skills and live on her own would probably not be as successful as, because she's been doing this 20 years.
Right.
So she can live independently with some support, as opposed to what many people what happens is in their 50s or 60s, moving into a group home with support they didn't need if there had been involvement earlier. Have you seen? Are there examples or that you think of where you've seen that happen?
Brad, I haven't seen that happen. I know it happens.
Yeah.
And years ago, I was in a couple of situations down at the government offices, and
Right.
there were a couple of other families who were pleading their case, and their child was in a wheelchair and the parent was aging, and I couldn't imagine where
Yeah.
they would go. But lights doesn't see some of those
Right.
families, uh, unfortunately, but because we can't, we don't, we haven't raised enough money
Yeah.
to give them right away permanent funding. And
Right.
that's why, sadly, they have to stay on the government wait list,
Right.
because the government, when they take them on, will give them permanent funding. But I mean, I feel so blessed because we've been able to do this for Jenny, and a couple of other individuals who are pals of hers. But
Hmm.
um, I know I have not
Okay.
witnessed that, but I
So
I
if you hadn't have been able, if Jenny was still living at home with you, um, how different would her life have been? Or how different would her life be?
well, she'd be tied to us all the time
Yeah.
instead of taking the subway on her own, um, having friends of her own. Um, she's had a few jobs. Maybe I could have found her some, or Bob could have found her some. I'm not sure. But when she's home with us, she helps with the dishes, and
Right.
she looks after her own, uh, all her own possessions, and she's she looks after her own hygiene, other than somebody brushes her teeth every night. Just at night she brushes her teeth, the rest of the time.
Right.
But and she knows that she's a great person.
Hmm.
She can walk into a room and say goodbye to me, and go and find who she knows, or meet other people she doesn't know. She knows that she's got stuff to offer the world.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful to see.
So it's really worked well for Jenny, and all the things that you say, that's been my experience of her as well. And the work that Lights has done has allowed, more than 100 families to have a similar kind of journey, and then educate thousands of others on what that opportunity might be. We're just in the last couple of minutes. Where would you want to see Lights going over the next over the next 5 years? What's your vision? What's your hope?
I'd love to see more lights programs across the province, helping more families. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the government can step in with some individualized funding to
Hmm.
make this happen, because I know that other, even cities like Kingston and London, the bigger cities,
Yeah.
Windsor, they don't have the same money that Toronto has. And, but I'm so hoping that I'll live to see other lights programs, don't even have to call them lights, whatever, but
Yeah.
similar, attached probably to an agency like Community Living Toronto, because I couldn't have done it without Community Living Toronto. We just couldn't.
Right.
It's all about partnerships and sharing and helping each other. And so that's my dream, that we'll start with Ontario, maybe go ultimately a few years more down the road across Canada. But I'd like to see more programs similar to Lights across Ontario.
That's a good dream.
I know. Well, and dreams can come true, right?
We can work on making dreams a reality. And I think, Mary Pat, it's been great chatting with you and then getting to know you over the last number of years, and seeing the impact that you've had in a number of different areas is inspiring. The work that you've done helping people, supporting communities, and the other thing that's really inspirational is you have a lot of fun in life. You you light up a room, and you bring a lot of energy to everything that you do. So, on behalf of Community Living Toronto, and your Lifetime Achievement Award recognized the contributions that you've made throughout your life. But just, on behalf of the organization and personally, thank you for everything that you've done, and your leadership in lights to demonstrate that these kinds of investments are investments and do make people's lives better over the long run. It's been a fantastic, inspirational example. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Brad. It's my pleasure, totally.
Great. Thanks again. We'll chat soon. Mary Pat is an example of what people with dedication, passion, and a vision can do. I am grateful to have Mary Pat as part of our community, and am amazed at the impact that she started with our Lights program that has touched the lives of hundreds of people across Ontario. Thanks for joining us for our Community Chats podcast. Remember, we release a new episode on the 15th and the 30th of each month, so don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.
Don't forget to join us next time as we unpack the power of community through collaborative initiatives and shared experiences. Available on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Audible, and YouTube. Follow us on social media at CL Toronto. Let's chat, share, and spread those good vibes together. We hope these discussions will inspire you and give new ideas to add your voice to our mission of making our communities and neighborhoods inclusive and welcoming.